6 years ago when I walked for 3 days and 3 nights with no food or water, with no shirt, no shoes, walking the streets, screaming at people. And at that particular day, I was $87,000 in debt. My car got repoed. I got fired from my career with Verizon Wireless as the manager of the company. And my wife left me, and I lost my house all in 1 week. And I ended up in rehab at Casa Palmera in Del Mar. And they introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. And showing up to Alcoholics Anonymous was really just the beginning of the collapse. I've really spent the last 6 years cleaning up the collapse. And the way that's looked is in my first year of sobriety, I was still in debt and I was living in a sober living, and I got this it was my first job since getting fired with a telesales company, and I was really bad at it. So I got fired from that, and that was it. I had exhausted every imaginable resource in my life. I couldn't get unemployment because I owed the state money, and it was I had nothing. And my checking account was overdrawn by $75, and I moved into my van. And I was living in my van for a few months, and I'll tell you, being homeless is not easy. Society does not make it easy, and I'll tell you why. I couldn't get a job because I didn't have a driver's license. But I couldn't get a driver's license because I didn't have a physical address. And I couldn't get a P.O. box because I didn't have a physical address. So here I am homeless, I'm trying to be this honest person. The first thing I had to do to get a job was lie about my address. And so that was very difficult to accept. And I lied about my address, I got a driver's license, and I became a limo driver. And I was living in my van, and I have my suit dry cleaned once a week, and I was sharing in an AA meeting about living in my van, and someone suggested the Community Resource Center. And I immediately said no, because I had tried something like that a few months before in another city, and they just kind of like pushed this big stack of paper in front of me, and I didn't feel like welcomed, and it was just a very horrible, experience. But for some reason, I came here, and I walked through that door, and within 15 minutes, I was with a social worker named Chad, and he just really welcomed me, and he listened to my story. I felt heard. It was just such a positive experience. That same day, he brought me over here. We walked through here and got food, and he showed me how to do that and take care of getting food, because living in your car, food's the biggest expense that I had. And so I started coming here. But the whole reason I came here was because I asked him, I'm like, do you have anything like rental assistance, or can you get me out of living in this van? And his answer was like, we do. It can be very difficult to get, and then once you get it, you got to get someone that can do the paperwork. So I didn't think about it. But I kept coming here, and I get food, and the toiletries were big, like those things mattered. And so I was showering at the gym at 24 Hour Fitness, and I lived in that van for 14 months. And whatever it was, 11 months, 12 months, or whatever goes by, and I came and I went to check in with Chad on something, and he goes, "You're not going to believe this. You got rental assistance." The day I came in to check, it was just like the craziest thing. And I can't tell you how important that rental assistance was in my life, because right after I got into the place where I'm still living to this day, COVID happened, and I got laid off from the limo job. And so I had a real willingness to become a better person and stay sober. I stayed sober through that whole thing of living in the van, and Chad kept in contact with me the whole time. And I spent the next 6 months, so I had 6 months of rental assistance. I spent the next 6 months making 2 full-time jobs. One, staying sober, and the other one was looking for a new career. And the only places hiring at that time were FedEx, Amazon, and UPS. FedEx and Amazon do not pay well, and they don't have a good retirement. UPS does. And I grew a garden, and I was just kind of enjoying life. And with the rental assistance, I didn't have to worry about money for the first time in a really long time. And the other thing that was important is with my bipolar disorder, I had a medication problem, because when I got laid off from the limo job, I no longer had insurance. And Chad was like, "No, right now you don't know this, but you can get Medi-Cal and you can get food stamps." So Chad had this like all worked out. I never would have known any of that. I mean, it was just such a blessing from God. having him in my life. And so now I had Medi-Cal, I got my medication, and everything was like fine. And then I get this job with UPS. UPS is a union job, and people don't leave when they get hired there. And it takes 5 years to become a job, to become a driver. Like you go from people that work in the warehouse are minimum wage, 4 hours a day. You're lucky to make $800 a month. The drivers work 60 hours a week at $42 an hour. I mean, that's how much of a financial difference it is. So 5 years, right? So I keep hearing rumors that they're desperate for drivers, and so I put in the paperwork for driver. I became a driver in 2 months. And I was this close to moving into a $450 sober living or moving back into my van. And I told Chad, like, something's happening in UPS. I think I might get driver. And they gave me an extra month of rental assistance. And like that month was just the pinnacle of just God being in my life today. And it was just such a blessing that they did that, because that was the month I got sent to driving school. I became a driver. And I went through a lot, and being able to come home and take a shower, it was a big deal. Like not having to worry about the gym being closed, and I had laundry. I could do laundry. Like these are big deals, right? I mean, like I only had 2 pairs of UPS driver clothes, and I was doing like laundry 3 days a week. You can't do that if you're living in your van, And so it was a blessing. Right now, today, where I'm at is I'm still a driver. I'm trying to get into management. And UPS is going on strike soon. So Friday, I went to work, and there was like a sign on the door of all these drivers getting sent back into the warehouse. I wasn't one of the drivers getting sent back. And my boss came up to me yesterday, and he said, "I'm just going to be forward with you because of the strike. There's a hiring freeze on managers. So what I'm going to do, listen, this is a true story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in a manager training program. And then when the freeze is over, you can jump right in." So that's where I'm at in my life. My son and I have an amazing relationship today. I'm really good friends with his mother. Because of not having to pay for food, I never missed a child support payment when I was living in that van. Not one. $525 a month. And speaking of golf, she hit a hole-in-one last week, and I bought her this trophy with her name on it. So the best gift I can give my son is to love his mother. And that's where I'm at. And so UPS is really hard work. It's very physically demanding, but it's got great benefits, and the benefits, like there's no deductibles for the medical. It's just such a blessing. I would not have been able, do you understand? I would not have been able to get that job if I didn't have a residence. And I had a residence because of the Community Resource Center. And it all just kind of tied together. And I'll tell you, the last thing I'll say about the Community Resource Center is that I have a lot of friends that have really bad things and judgmental things to say about the homeless problem. The Community Resource Center is actually doing something to solve the pandemic of homelessness. And for that, I'm always grateful. I'm forever in your debt.
No.
And just thank you.
No.
We're in your debt.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great
Thank you.
story.